Workfront Wednesday, pre-Workfront Wednesday, Workfront Wednesday -1. Had to make sure to include all those in the recording for those watching at home. And thank you guys for listening today and for watching the recording in the future. But today, team, it's funny, we wanted to talk about planning. It is a very hot topic at the moment, where I'm not sure, and I kind of want to go around the room. Did anyone sign up for the pilot? Are they using planning? What is the current trend right now from the team?
Yep, piloting and using with different customers.
Okay, great.
Or interest by customers, so being able to speak capably about it and pros and cons and things like that.
Perfect. Anyone else using planning, piloting, thinking?
Yeah, we've had the tool for, I would say about a year, maybe a little over a year. So I configured it last summer for our planning cycle in the fall so that we could use it for 2026 first half planning. And we're going now into 2026 second half planning using the tool. But I will say it is challenging because it's a completely different tool. So the way that the architecture is and the way that the functionality is, and even the way that the notifications are generated is completely different. So it has been an experience.
That I am with you. And like for us, like Joanne and I, kind of what we wanted to talk about today, and I'll get into the slides in a minute, was we got into the pilot. There's been a lot of resources by Adobe that's been put out there talking about Workfront Planning. It is, I think, with the pilot, things have become very popular. So for us, it was like Joanne and I are like, let's get in there. Let's try some things out. Let's see what what planning's all about, and then see if we can bring anything kind of like to you guys and to share. Again, Kim, thank you for sharing your experiences, but let's break down planning, and we love it when a plan comes together. That was a good title. We were happy when we came up with that title today. So let me share my screen. Okay.
And before we continue, I just wanted to thank Colby. I've joined a new organization. It's the same organization, but they have some different controls over here, and I'm not easily able to join via my laptop. So I'm on my phone right now, and Colby is going to share the screen and take us through today. But I'm not going to be quiet.
No, my pleasure, Joanne. But everyone, thank you again for joining. So today, welcome again to WUG NYC, first meeting in 2026. We are so happy to be together here with you guys today and talk planning. And also, I know we've said before, there's something special about when you're in a room of Workfront people. There's just magic that happens. So appreciate everyone joining today.
And like me, let us know if you're having any technical difficulties. We can try and help you troubleshoot on the side. We would ask if while you're not speaking or while we're presenting our material, if you could just go on mute, that would be great. Really appreciate that. It will just help to knock down some of the background noise. And also feel free to use the chat functionality. I do see that that's already in the works here, so super happy of that. We're happy to field any questions that might pop up there, and yeah, we're excited to present to you today. let us know if you need to leave early, or if you are leaving early, you want to just shoot us a message in that chat just to let us know. And if you aren't a part of our NYC WUG, Workfront User Group, we're going to be sending out, this link, and I can actually also, or actually, I don't know if I can put it in the chat, but I will try with my increasing technical difficulties today, but all good there. Oh, Colby, did you want me to take this too?
I apologize. I did that thing where I was on mute.
I'm happy to take the team through.
So just going over some house rules. No self-promotion or pitching of any kind. Don't contact people outside of the user group without consent. And if user group members share their use case at a meeting, please do not share that information without their consent as well. And I'll go to the next slide.
Good stuff.
So we will be recording.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Gold. Yep.
No worries. So we will be recording. As you've seen, it's funny. It's every time someone joins in, when we comes into the meeting, the recording stops, and then you have to starts, and then stops and starts. So right now we are live recording. If you do not wish to participate, please feel free to watch the recording at a later time, which will be linked after the meeting concludes. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, Joanne, or advocacy@adobe.com. And then I'll kick it to Joanne.
Okay, Joanne, you're on mute.
And Joanne will kick it back to me. So Workfront Planning. There's been a lot of questions, right? When it was first introduced, at least for myself, I was enamored with the functionality. The UX is very nice, and there was all this potential. However, I wasn't sure exactly how to put it into play. And one of the things for us is, if we took a step back, right, where if you look at kind of the outline of the Workfront tools, right, we have workflows, which is handling all of our requests, projects, and tasks, programs, all of our operational activity. That's Workfront workflows. And then to the right of that, you have Fusion and automations, integrations, things that kind of get things moving, connecting to make sure the workflows are operating. However, planning sits right at the front of that. So planning is really before work is ready to start, and where things aren't ready as of yet, but you kind of have, work is going to begin, things need to take place, but it's not officially a request. It's not officially a project with tasks or live programs or portfolios. So I think for us, right, this slide is really just to showcase kind of like thinking of all these things that outside of Workfront that references things in Workfront. So there's lack of visibility with no clear view of overall plans and progress, information in multiple tools. Potentially, there might be some lack of strategic alignment and inability to trace initiatives back to goals. Maybe some decisioning framework is fragmented, lacks context, and also there's hindered collaboration resulting from siloed workflows. And this is, right, like once a Workfront project is live, that's your source of truth for all activities. But up until that point, sometimes we lack visibility. And that's where kind of, and this does a better job of me just using my hands and painting the picture, is where Workfront planning comes into play. We have workflow right at the front, right in the middle, and planning sits to the left. So it's really this opportunity for teams to build out that kind of forecasting. Planning is such a perfect name because it's really planning. When you need to do planning before the projects, planning is the tool that will help you kind of bring that into fruition. And then at the far end, right, we have Fusion, as I listed before. So really, as we sit today in the Workfront journey and the Workfront experience, these are the main 3 pillars across the universe. And for us, it's identifying a way to where they all work together. And as with all the members on this call, with workflow, right, we've experienced Workfront where it's a canvas. We build it within the architecture that's presented, but it's a canvas in the way that we all use it a little differently. We all build workflow to satisfy our own internal solutions, our own standard operating procedures. And planning can be just the same. It's an open canvas for us to really bring back into, really, you can use it for anything. And that's the fun. If you're in the pilot, if you're been actively using it, it's an opportunity to go in and test some things. And that's where Joanne and I have kind of taken the role with that. And Joanne, I will kick it back to you.
Okay, great. So if we go to the next slide, sorry. So just thinking through some of these use cases, right? And I'm not certain, I think I had to drop off the call and dial back in. Colby, when you were asking like how many people or if anyone was currently using planning or exploring planning, but there are so many different use cases out there for this product. And, you know, I think some of them, which are described on this slide, you know, like a centralized plan management and taxonomy, you know, really diving into like all the activities and decision making around, you know, single central point. And it's, I think, a really good tool to, and Colby and I have both been sort of exploring, we haven't been using in production, but we've been exploring, you know, what that might mean for our different organizations. It's interesting because, you know, we work in very different areas of business. And I think that at this from different perspectives is very interesting to see how I might use it for, you know, marketing and maybe scope of work planning at the beginning of the year versus, you know, Colby's going to show you a demonstration of what he's put together as well within planning in a little bit. But it just is a good way of, you know, going outside just portfolios and programs and thinking larger, thinking above that and before you get to that point, right? And then there are other ways of using planning for perhaps goal setting, thinking through initiatives on not only projects, but within your line of business. So, you know, and stuff that you've previously kept out of Workfront, it's time, right? It's time to bring it all together. It's time to bring it in and see how these items can really support your portfolios, programs, projects, above and beyond how you're doing it today. Because things seem to have been very separated before. And then, you know, the last item is just another example of how you could potentially utilize planning for, you know, lists, repositories, ongoing items that you need to keep track of that might not be a Workfront project, but its item need to be, you know, captured. So very exciting ways of thinking through how we could potentially use planning.
Absolutely. And with that, right, Joanne and I set out on, right, both having access into planning. We're like, let's go in and see what we can come up with. And as Joanne mentioned, we both came back with different things. So I'm going to dive into my instance to kind of showcase what planning could mean to us. And that's the best part with planning. It's fluid. So you can build, you can change, you can adapt, and take things from there. But for all of those who were joined the Q4 call, one of the main threads inside of my Workfront instance is focusing on marketing budget. And with marketing budget, right, I facilitate those via a request comes in with signed contracts, SOWs, and invoices attached, and then turn into a project where we create the purchase order, and then we track all of the actuals into the project. So teams throughout the entire year can get a pulse on all of their financial spend by team. So then looking at that, I'm like, how can planning help me there? And the one thing I thought was, well, I only allow the request to be submitted when there's a signed contract in place. However, that money was planned to be spent months, maybe a year beforehand, and that information did not exist inside of Workfront. So then it gave me the idea, what if we then took our whole budget, put it inside of Workfront Planning, and then once records, contracts, and signatures were in place, we can attach them into Workfront Planning and then automate a project from there. Now, still scoping that out with my team, but kind of wanted to showcase how you can do that inside of Workfront Planning. And I will come in here. So planning, I'm still within the trial area, and you can see I have a multiple different workspaces built up, but I'm going to walk through the team just how to create a workspace and get started. There's a lot of different ways to do it, and there's templates inside of the system that you can utilize. You can start from scratch, or you can utilize AI to help you start building a workspace for you. I'm going to build one from scratch. So I'm going to go into a new workspace, and I'm going to call this marketing budget. Okay, great. Everything works now and we're good to go. Completely kidding. Now, the next step is to come in and do a new record type. This is one of the very alluring things about Workfront Planning is the ability to create records and objects that might align to your business processes, right? If we think Workfront, you have your main three objects of a request issue, a project, and a task. Other plethora of objects, but those are your core three. With planning, you're able to kind of develop your own objects, which is very exciting, and can develop multiple use cases from there. So for me, I built my workspace marketing budget, and I'm going to upload from a file. So I'm going to continue, and then I'm going to drag and drop my Excel, and let me preview and edit. Okay, so I see the activity IDs, I see my categories, budget type, interesting. I see I have my numbers here. And then in this preview section, you are able to edit based off of what was previous generated. So right here, I'm seeing the numbers come in from my year 2026, and I want those recognized as currency. And I'm going to hit save. Perfect. And from there, it looks like I'm ready to go. Great. So now I have a workspace dedicated to my marketing budget. I'm seeing, okay, here's my different categories. Here's the owner. Here are my activity IDs. That will help. What we use activity IDs for is just delineating between purchase orders and contracts across the business. And I can even add a little bit of description. This is for orchestration. This is for license increase. And in the Excel file I attached, it didn't have fields included, but I can type in right here, you know what, this is actually for a license increase as well. Great. And then now I see my forecasted amount right here. And if you want to go in, you could go in and edit. I'm just going to say, change this to 2026 forecast. Currency is USD. You have different options to include, and you can allow negative numbers. Perfect. So that's saved. Now, let me think, and this is just keeping it from just a cursory perspective, but I have my forecasted amount. Let me also add in a field that is going to be my actual spend. So I'll come in, actuals. I have it set as currency, USD, perfect. So now I have my forecast, I have my actuals, and then one other thing I can do is, well, sometimes it's helpful to know exactly how much I have remaining. I mean, we could do the math, but a field that would delineate that is very helpful to see. So all I need is really just the separation of these two. So you can also come in, while you can create standard fields inside of Workfront Planning, you are able to also create calculated fields. So I come in with a formula, and I'm going to say remaining budget. My formula is going to be 2026 forecast minus my actuals. Now, don't forget your squiggly bars. Now you have a brand new line here. So if I came into CT4 as things were operating, quarterly invoices just populated, and we spent 4,500 in actuals. And then you're able to see your remaining budget also. So this is just a way, right, to get started. There's no connection to workflow in this situation. It's simply just a planning workspace that teams can come in and be able to have a quick pulse. Now, it's a starting point. And what I can then do from here is I can build out projects to be automated once I have contracts ready, right? If we look into the module card, you can look in and see all this information here. You can then add a document at a later stage, and then you can automate your project. So and you can bring back in. So one thing that's great about planning is you can connect it to your Workfront projects or other objects inside of workflow, and you can bring those fields back in. So this was one example, just wanted to show, took a simple Excel file, dropped it into Workspace, and I have a working budget file at this point that I can share out with different team members and give them that visibility. Another aspect of planning that I'm currently scoping right now is what's interesting for us, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, is a lot of, when it comes to your UX, there's a lot of times that, and for me personally, and maybe others on the call that would share this experience, is that when you fill out a request, there's a lot of required fields, and some of that information isn't ready and not known by the time a request needs it submitted, but you have your stakeholders and they want to make sure that this is on your agenda. Now, I'm taking a step back and being like, okay, well, maybe right before a request lives an idea. So the idea is something that you do not have all the information for those required fields to submit an official request, but you have a base layer that you want to make sure is on the team's forecasting and calendaring. So I came in, I developed an idea, just a breakout and of different areas, not required fields, but within planning, you can create a request form as well. So I came up with an idea collaboration form where identifying just primary details, what's your start date, end date, the status of this, what BU you're coming from, solution, different power plays, audience, and channels. Now, once I get later more in tune with this, I will make things required, but it's just an area to get things started. So individuals can come in to the Workfront request new user experience, fill out a planning request form, and you can see them populate within your area. Now, from here, right, you can also build out, and this is still in the works for me in identifying all the key fields, but required fields in my standard custom form as blank spaces and columns in this idea categorization, so that while I'm able to see, okay, we have a Google ad announcement, we have a 2025 brand year info highlights that we want to launch, and for some reason, someone put in a Workfront Planning test. From here, I can see my start dates, my end dates, different high level but key details for me to understand when I start forecasting and planning. And then in an example, once I am ready I have all of the fields filled out in this dashboard by my different requesters and stakeholders, I can come in and through no utilization of Fusion, just simple automation within planning, I can create a Workfront project. And for some reason, my screen won't let me go down all the way, but with a click of the button, you are able to do it, or you can do that for a status field change. So those are really simple to set up. You just come into your workspace, you manage your automations. And for me, I just have project creation, and it is triggered by a button click. So when I click that create project, I have it set to create a single project. You can create multiple projects. And then from here, you can also say, what is the field that will be associated? What is the project template? So when that project is created, what tasks do you want included with it? And you'll then easily have a project ready to start with the team that you can then send out. Also, what's great about Workspace is you have the ability to, for me, I definitely enjoy color. You can play around with the row colors. You can set up different groupings, just as our standard reports. You can create different views. And the one thing that's really beneficial for me is this timeline view. So you can see from a perspective where things are correlating together. And if you ever want to click into something, you'll have, for me, my idea card right here, where I can see everything that's going on. Now, I want to say this is our start. This is just a baseline for me in my planning experience, but it was just our ways of thinking about, here's some things that we could operate, taking a look. And that's what I encourage with teams who have not yet started planning, is just go in there, make something, create it, delete it, start over again, and just keep kind of fiddling with different areas that you think you can find beneficial across the board, where planning is, right, workflows is a way to bring us all together when the work is happening. Planning is just an additional opportunity for us to think of us being in that whiteboard together and looking at and going over, this isn't due today, but it's something that I have coming up. Can we talk about it? If you have any thoughts, and it's another shared workspace that we all can rely upon together and create some unique deliverables. And I'll take a break there, but that's just kind of how I've gone into planning. I've tested some few things, plenty of more testing for me to take place in the future, but it was a lot of fun. I think for a majority, I can speak for the individuals on this call, just Workfront is, again, and I'd said it so many times, but I truly believe it, it's just a canvas. We have the opportunity to use the colors to paint with. And I'll open up for any questions. And Joanne.
Colby, I'm so sorry. I've been switching back and forth between my trying to log back in computer because I was so excited to share my created workspace within Plan as well. And I'm so sorry today. I can't. I'm having such horrible issues over here. So my apologies. However, thank you so much for sharing that experience. I loved how you showed, the connection between basically your, not only bringing in your existing budget, but then making the connection across other records within that workspace. It's quite remarkable what you could do. And I know as you and I both were going through this exercise preparing for today, it was really a good, not only a good learning curve, but I think it revealed some exciting things. Like for me, one of the really cool things that I uncovered was creating that planning request queue and then going into Workfront and choosing that planning request queue. One of the record types that I created within my scope of work planning was tactics. And I was able to create a tactic request form. And when I filled out that tactic request form within Workfront, boom, it automatically populated that new tactic within my record list directly in planning. So that was really cool for me, making that connection across from Workfront over to Workfront Planning. And then also, getting a really easy vehicle of how are others on my team going to share that information with me without actually having to go into Workfront Planning and, put together a whole new record within the type, etc. Easy enough, right? Creating that request. So gathering that information was really critical. I also was talking to someone at Adobe, and while I don't know a ton of information about it, there are Workfront Planning API can be built. So you can use Fusion in one way or another. Again, I don't have all the information, but I think that it's worth exploring so that we can take a look at making that true connection between perhaps portfolio and planning, or program and planning, even project and planning if necessary. Again, I don't have all of specific information, but I do know that it is. So yeah, it was really exciting exploration, and I really look forward to spending more time in there. And again, we don't know if you actually have planning yet, or sandbox, or have been given a free trial, or are purchasing, but it would be great to hear from you. Anyone on the call.
I've had no experience with it, but I noticed we do have it as a pilot, and so I think my goal is to go in and play around with it a little bit more. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Yeah. I heard crickets doing some crickets. So I want to make sure you can still hear me. Yeah, so that's kind of my goal, is to go in and kind of maybe replicate how our organization is currently capturing planning activities, and maybe just try to replicate it within the pilot, and just kind of with just some test information.
And that's actually we have Joanne in a slight delay right now. but right, that is perfect. And then like one of the things that like before I dove in, because we have the pilot as well, was that the recommendation was don't try and look across your taxonomy across every single thing. It's just like, because then you'll get lost in the sauce a little bit. Like take a portion of it, put it
Yep.
into workspace and planning, build it out, and then once you get the hang of it and like that a UX that you're familiar with, then you can start layering in other different use cases. But it's because like for me with the idea, I took that and I'm like, well, I can bring in this aspect. I'm like, oh, well, we plan over here. I'm like, let me focus on this small subset, get my hands
Yeah.
around it, and then you'll see other use cases just start to materialize.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking, just thinking about like anything that, different teams will use, like just anything for like calendars, it's all about like planning stuff, right? Forecasting what's
Yep.
coming up in the physical year. And so before anything gets into Workfront, so, maybe just taking a small subset or like a small team's planning activities and how they're currently managing it and just, see how it would function, and how could it connect to some of those existing projects that are in our environments or in Workfront today. Maybe just see how the interconnectivity is working. So,
it's perfect.
yeah. Thank
Yeah,
I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
me too,
thanks.
for sure. Anyone else have any ideas how they might use it, or if they have access to it but haven't used it yet? One of the things that I know that we're exploring is perhaps brand planning at the beginning of the year, so that we can, take a look at, and again, I say brand planning, but digging down to all the different little smaller organizations within all of our Workfront instances across my org. You know, I'm sure that people are going to be using it in much different ways, and so we'll see how we can explore getting that going. But yeah, brand planning might be one really, really good use case for that. As I know, there are so many different, systems out there that are not connected to Workfront natively. So this will be nice.
Hey, I have we got it, and then it was kind of showing across all of our instances, all through production and everything, and it was starting to confuse our users as to what it was. So I kind of had them, was like, can you just either put it on in a lower environment or something like that? So I haven't had a chance to play around with it yet.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, if you have a situation where you already have a couple of other planning tools in place, what is sort of, do you think, I'm kind of just wondering, like, what's the pitch when there's been significant, investment in other planning tools, but, in general, I think people are looking to see if Workfront can become that planning tool, but it does lack that sort of front end bit.
Yeah.
So I'm just, wondering your thoughts on sort of.
Yeah, like for me, I think that it's interesting because same over here, right? Where there's, this experience hasn't existed before inside of Workfront. So it's like other areas have been built out. I think for my perspective, right, is with some of that, with the calendar views and the ability to manipulate some of that information and like the flexibility of the calendars, it creates an opportunity to really get something in before a request is ready. So like kind of like, even if it's something as simple as like, my view is I try and for all my users, because I own a few other platforms inside the tech stack, but like if I can get you to work where you want to work, then I've kind of accomplished my goal. I think with planning, right, is if you already have a majority of your users invested in the workflow portion of things, then planning is an opportunity for them to live in Workfront from start to finish, without any like leaving for another tool or coordinating with another effort. You can live off of Workfront links and updates in that section. So that's for me what I'm thinking, but it would be a transition for.
Yeah, and it seems as if it would also, I think from the marketing perspective, they are a bit more invested in that front end part, the campaign management, all that stuff. So, having something that speaks to them day to day, being in the system doing that, I just wonder, I don't know what the cost differential is with planning versus just regular Workfront. And, curious about it. But it sounds like you guys have played around with it a little bit. I'm looking forward to being able to do that, outside of, being of confusing our users as to what system we're in.
I think also
Do
one
you,
good thing.
Carol, I was just, Carol, what I've been doing is just utilizing it in my sandbait. It's not in production.
Yeah.
And I have the ability to like tap into real projects, real portfolios, and real experiences without touching the production. We do that a lot over here. The sandbox is a savior. So that's one,
And
one
do
way
you
of
have
doing
it? Were you able to have Adobe just turn it on in your sandbox as opposed to across all your environments?
Yeah, I don't think I have it in production, but I do have it in sandbox. And I
All right, that's what I asked for, but
believe it's only in one sandbox, because I believe we have two sandboxes in the one instance
yeah, so do we.
of Workfront. So
All right, I'm gonna
check it
check
out.
back in with them about that. Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut someone else off.
Yeah, no worries. Raymond here. Yeah, one thing I was gonna add, Carol, too, is like, and I completely hear you, and I feel like that's probably something a lot of us have dealt with. It's like, hey, organizations have already heavily invested in other tools, right? So what's the pitch, right? With something new like this? Even though I haven't fully used it, it's just like that more end-to-end visibility, right? It's more seamless integration, right? With like Experience Cloud and with Adobe. From what I saw, it's just like, hey, automated project creation, right? It's more a simplified end-to-end process as part of, in my case, it's like content supply chain. So I think having some of that information as part of a pitch will really help. Even though, yeah, there's probably contracts in place, and there's already been heavy investments, but sometimes even just like a proof of concept or a pilot can prove it out. Yeah, could just prove something out, and just even with a small team, and then that team is, I don't know, accelerating, and leadership's noticed that, and there's like, hey, this team's moving like way faster. Well, we piloted the planning piece, and it's seamlessly end to end is working, and project creations, etc. That, hey, they might pivot later.
I think she does.
Yeah, and that's one thing too I was going to say is like the automations, like the simple automations is very alluring. Like for me, like in our instance before the planning pilot, all of our Workfront project creation is done with a few different scenarios in Fusion, and with there it's kind of manipulating the system to recognize the intake that was input, to select the right template, to grab this template from here. It's fun to see the scenario of it all because it's a lot of different icons and boxes, but taking that and then seeing this ability to just click a button or to change a field in a project is created with a template that you identify beforehand. And that's another thing as well, right? You can create a single project from planning. You can create multiple projects from the same row in planning, but you can also create different types of projects with planning. So for instance, in that idea grid that I was showing before, if I have a template, a few different templates, like one's for an ad, one's for a video, one's for a storyboard, you can then create an automation that says create storyboard project, create video project. And that's another way for you're making sure that the project is created and has the correct tasks associated. One thing as a follow-up also, we've compiled just a list of additional resources for the team for you guys to check out, some upcoming events as well that focus on planning. Another area I want to call out is the biggest part of Workfront is our reporting, right? So with planning, the reporting is created via Canvas. And so if you're not in the Canvas beta, take a look. It's really cool. And you're able to then take your Workfront planning workspaces and create dashboards via Canvas that are high level, that are colorful, intuitive, and you can even, you're able to control the whole Canvas dashboard with filters. So for instance, say I have a year-to-date Canvas dashboard that has all of my planning workspaces data that's focused on from, we'll say 2025, from 1/1/2025 to the end of the year. You can put in filters that go, show me Q4 of 2025, and then it will just update all the charts automatically.
I think that's a great point. I played around with Canvas dashboards a little bit. I haven't really find exactly what I'd like to board the functionality, and it seems really cool. But again, just utilizing that in my sandbox at the moment. Let me see. Sorry, and thank you so much, Colby, taking the lead with sharing your screen. I have a planner, my planning workspace, and things as well. But really, thank you so much. I've had to like duck out and a couple of times, so thank you so much.
Of course. Well, thank you, Joanne, and thank you all of our fellow WUGers and joining the NYC, the Workfront user group. The one thing I will also call out is let us know if anyone's going to Summit, if anything is any new events that you guys come back with, that you see any lab sessions or anything like that. But we are so happy you guys were able to join today, and we'll hope to hear back from you and learn about your planning experience and other Workfront experiences in our Q2.
Oh, it looks like Raymond's going, Carol's going. Autumn, that's amazing. Good stuff. Well, we will be posting the presentation, this recording as well. Will be posted. That's lead to post it in form. And then there was just one other thing, hang up. If you receive, there was a text, please know I'm sending that out shortly. Thank you so much.
So we'll have the survey out. Thank you, everyone. And if you have anything in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to us.
Thank you.
Thank
care.
you.
Have a
Thanks,
wonderful
everyone.
day.
Take care. Bye.
Should be on that list.